Abu Bakr Siddiq, popularly known as Abu Bakr, was the first caliph after the Prophet Muhammad. His full name was Abdullah bin Abu Quhafa. His noble lineage met that of the Prophet 6 generations earlier in Murrah ben Ka'b. Born in Makkah in 573 AD, Abu Bakr grew up under the guidance of his virtuous parents, gaining noble character and immense self-esteem. His father, Uthman Abu Quhafa, embraced Islam on the day of the victory of Makkah, while his mother, Salma bint Sakar, also known as al-Khair, accepted Islam early and migrated to Medina. Physically, Abu Bakr was a slim, fair-skinned man with slightly rounded shoulders and a thin face. His eyes were deep-set, his forehead pronounced, and his fingers notably hairless. His daughter, Aisha, described him vividly, painting a picture of his gentle but striking presence. From a young age, Abu Bakr lived like other children of the desert, surrounded by the vast expanse of the Bedouin life. He played among the camels and goats, forming a deep affection for the camels that earned him the endearing nickname Abu Bakr, meaning the father of the camel's calf. At the age of 18, Abu Bakr entered the world of trade, following his family's tradition as a cloth merchant. With a starting capital of 40,000 dirhams, he built his business with dedication and integrity. Over the years, his trading journeys took him across Yemen, Syria, and various lands of the Middle East. His keen knowledge, leadership, and honesty elevated him as the chief of his tribe, even while his father still lived. Morally, Abu Bakr stood apart. Even in the days of ignorance before Islam, he abstained from all intoxicants. When someone once asked him if he had ever consumed alcohol, Abu Bakr's reply was resolute: "I seek refuge in Allah. I never did it." When asked why, he responded, "I preserve my honor and uphold my dignity." Abu Bakr never worshipped idols. In one instance, he recalled being led by his father to the Kaaba's chamber of idols. Left alone, he faced the lifeless statues and questioned them. "I am hungry. Can you feed me?" Silence was their only answer. He continued, "I am in need of fine clothes. Can you bestow them upon me?" Again, nothing but silence. In a moment of defiance, he hurled a rock at one of them, toppling it. That experience forever shaped his disdain for idolatry. Abu Bakr's heart and character set him apart. Even before the light of Islam, he exemplified integrity, high values, and kindness amidst a society immersed in ignorance. The people of Makkah admired him as a leader in morality and behavior. No one could find a single fault to criticize him among the Quraysh. Abu Bakr Siddiq accepted Islam after a long and sincere search for the true religion. He was the first man to respond wholeheartedly and believe in the message brought by Prophet Muhammad. This immediate acceptance stemmed from a steadfast friendship and deep trust that he shared with the Prophet. Abu Bakr had always known Muhammad as a truthful, honest, and noble person. How could such a man who never spoke a lie to people be anything but truthful to Allah? When Abu Bakr embraced Islam, the Prophet's joy was profound. He knew that with Abu Bakr's support, Islam had gained a strong ally. Abu Bakr's status within the Quraysh tribe and his noble character made him a force for good, a source of triumph for this new faith. Even before Islam, Abu Bakr had doubted the validity of idolatry and felt no enthusiasm for worshipping lifeless statues. Once he embraced the truth, his efforts to bring others into the fold of Islam were tireless. Through his dedication, individuals like Uthman bin Affan, Abdul Rahman bin Auf, Talha bin Ubaidillah, Saad bin Abi Waqqas, Al-Zubair bin Al-Awwam, and Abu Ubaidah bin Al-Jarrah were drawn to Islam. The Prophet once remarked, Abu Bakr was the only person who accepted Islam immediately, without hesitation. When the number of Muslims grew to 39, Abu Bakr sought permission from the Prophet to invite others openly to Islam. He was persistent in his request, and finally the Prophet consented. Together, they went to the Holy Mosque of Makkah, and there Abu Bakr delivered a sermon, the first of its kind in the history of Islam. The reaction of the Quraysh was brutal. As soon as they heard his words, they attacked. They struck Abu Bakr and the other Muslims from every direction. Abu Bakr was beaten so mercilessly that he fell unconscious, his body broken and on the brink of death. When he finally regained consciousness, his first words were not about his own pain or injuries. He whispered with urgency, "How is the Prophet?" Even in that moment of anguish, his only concern was the well-being of Muhammad. Such was the boundless depth of his love and devotion. Abu Bakr's personal sacrifices did not end there. He parted ways with his wife Qutayla when she refused to accept Islam, though his other wife, Ruman, embraced the faith. His entire household, save for his son Abul Rahman, entered the fold of Islam, sharing in his steadfast belief. As Siddiq, the most well-known of Abu Bakr's titles, stems from the word Sikh, meaning truthfulness. Thus, as-Siddiq signifies someone who is ever truthful and unwavering in their belief in the truth. For Abu Bakr, it represented his complete trust and belief in the truthfulness of Prophet Muhammad. This honorable title was bestowed upon him by none other than the Prophet himself. When the persecution of the Prophet and his companions by the Quraysh intensified, the Prophet commanded the Muslims to migrate to Medina. As narrated by Aisha, the Prophet shared with the Muslims a vision. "I have been shown the place to which you will migrate, a land of palm trees between two mountains and a rocky tract of land." Upon hearing this, many Muslims began their journey to Medina. Even those who had sought refuge in Abyssinia returned to make their new home in Medina. Abu Bakr, too, prepared to leave, but the Prophet told him, "Wait a little while, for I hope to be permitted to migrate as well." With heartfelt devotion, Abu Bakr asked, "Do you expect so? May my parents be redeemed for you." The Prophet replied, "Yes." Abu Bakr's heart swelled with love and loyalty. He would not leave without his beloved friend and guide. He meticulously prepared 2 camels, feeding and caring for them for 4 long months in anticipation of their arduous journey. Meanwhile, the Quraysh grew increasingly anxious. They could see that Muhammad now had supporters and followers elsewhere. The migration of his companions made them fear that he, too, would leave Makkah. In desperation, they plotted to end his life. But Gabriel came with a divine command, informing the Prophet of the need to leave Makkah. While the Prophet's house was surrounded by swordsmen from every tribe in Makkah, he entrusted his cousin, Ali bin Abi Talib, to lie in his bed, creating an illusion of his presence. In the quiet of early morning, the Prophet and Abu Bakr slipped away unnoticed. Their journey from Makkah to Medina was fraught with danger and adventure. Once the Quraysh realized they had been deceived, they unleashed their fury, offering a prize of 100 camels for the capture of the Prophet and Abu Bakr. Determined, they scoured the land, hunting them down. As the fugitives sought refuge in a cave called Tower, they remained there for 3 nights. In those tense hours, a spider spun its web over the cave's entrance, and a pigeon built its nest there. When the Quraysh swordsmen followed their tracks to the mouth of the cave, they paused. Seeing the undisturbed web and the nest, they assumed it was impossible for anyone to have entered without disturbing them. They turned back, convinced their search was futile. In that fragile, heart-stopping moment, Abu Bakr whispered with deep concern, "I was with the Prophet in the cave, and when I lifted my head, I saw the feet of the people above us. I said, 'O Messenger of Allah, if any of them looks down, they will see us.'" With unshakable calm, the Prophet replied, "O Abu Bakr, what do you think of 2 when the third with them is Allah? This moment is beautifully captured in the Quran. If you do not aid the Prophet, Allah has already aided him when those who disbelieve drove him out of Makkah as one of 2, when they were in the cave, and he said to his companion, 'Do not grieve. Indeed, Allah is with us.'" The journey of faith continued with trials and battles. The Battle of Badr marked the first major confrontation between the Muslims and the Quraysh of Makkah. It was fought near Medina on the 17th of Ramadan, 2 AH, March 13th, 624 AD. On that pivotal day, Abu Bakr stood as one of the guards of the Prophet's tent, entrusted with his protection. The weight of this responsibility was immense, but his devotion knew no limits. Years later, his son Abdul Rahman, who had fought with the Quraysh during the Battle of Badr, recounted, "You were within my reach that day, and I turned away from you. I did not kill you." With unwavering conviction, Abu Bakr replied, "As for me, if you had been in my reach, I would not have turned away." This exchange exemplifies the greatness of Abu Bakr's faith. His truthfulness, sincerity, and unwavering love for Allah and his messenger surpassed even his love for his own blood. He lived and breathed the commands of Allah and the guidance of the Prophet with every fiber of his being. As Allah states in the Quran, "You will not find a people who believe in Allah and the last day having affection for those who oppose Allah and his messenger, even if they were their fathers or their sons or their brothers or their kindred." The Prophet said, None of you truly believes until I am more beloved to him than his child, his father, and all the people. For Abu Bakr, this was not just a teaching, it was the essence of his life. His unwavering faithfulness to Allah and the Prophet meant that even his disbelieving son could not hold a place in his heart that conflicted with his loyalty to Islam. In the Battle of Uhud, fought a year after Badr, the Quraysh gained the upper hand due to the archers abandoning their positions on Mount Uhud. In this moment of crisis, only a handful remained by the Prophet's side. Among this devoted group was Abu Bakr, a symbol of courage and unshakable belief, standing steadfast when others faltered. The Prophet once said of Abu Bakr, "No one has helped me without reciprocating it, except for Abu Bakr, who has given me help, which Allah will reciprocate to him on the day of resurrection. No one's property has benefited me to the extent of Abu Bakr's. And if I were to take a Khalil intimate friend, I would have taken Abu Bakr as a Khalil. Indeed, your companion is Allah's Khalil." Tirmidhi. These words reflect the profound bond and gratitude the Prophet felt for his closest companion. The unmatched devotion of Abu Bakr was further evident in the moments of charity. Umar bin al-Khattab once narrated, "The Messenger of Allah commanded us to give sadaqah, charity. At that time I had some property. I thought, today I shall surpass Abu Bakr if I ever can. So I brought half of my wealth. The Messenger of Allah asked, 'What did you leave for your family?' I said, 'The same amount.' Then Abu Bakr came, bringing everything he had. The Messenger of Allah asked him, 'What did you leave for your family?' He replied, 'I left Allah and his Messenger for them.' I said, 'I shall never surpass you in anything.'" Abu Dawud. Such was the level of sacrifice and trust Abu Bakr placed in his faith, giving everything for Allah and his Messenger without hesitation. His compassion extended beyond the Prophet and his companions. Abu Bakr devotedly liberated many slaves, moved by their suffering and the weight of their chains. With his own wealth, he purchased and freed 8 slaves, 4 men and 4 women, spending 40,000 dinars for their freedom. Among them was Bilal bin Rabah, one of the most loyal companions of the Prophet. This act was not merely a transaction, it was an expression of profound humanity and mercy. When the Prophet passed away in 11 AH, 632 AD, it was an unimaginable moment for the Muslim community. Many, including Umar bin Khattab, were unable to accept the reality of his passing. Overcome with grief and disbelief, Umar vowed that the Prophet had not died. But it was Abu Bakr, steadfast and resolute as always, who stepped forward to confront the bewildered crowd with unwavering strength. Ibn Abbas narrated that at this moment of chaos and despair, Abu Bakr went out while Umar was speaking to the people. He addressed him firmly, saying, "Sit down, O Umar," repeating it twice, but Umar, overwhelmed by his emotions, refused. Abu Bakr then turned to the gathering and said, "To proceed, if anyone amongst you used to worship Muhammad, then Muhammad is dead. But if you used to worship Allah, then Allah is alive and shall never die." He then recited the verse, "Muhammad is not but a messenger. Other messengers have passed on before him. So if he was to die or be killed, would you turn back on your heels to unbelief? And he who turns back on his heels will never harm Allah at all, but Allah will reward the grateful." Surah Al-Imran 344. The weight of Abu Bakr's words hit the people like a wave of realization. Ibn Abbas recalled that it was as if they had never known this verse existed until Abu Bakr spoke it. Everyone began to recite it, understanding at last. As for Umar, his legs gave way beneath him and he fell, acknowledging the painful truth that the Prophet had departed from this world. Following the death of the Prophet, Abu Bakr was unanimously chosen as the Caliph. His leadership, however, was immediately tested by the crises that emerged. Imam al-Dahabi recounts that when the news of the Prophet's death spread, many Arab tribes turned away from Islam. They refused to pay the almsgiving zakat, believing that their obligations had ended with the Prophet's passing. In the face of such rebellion, Abu Bakr's resolve was unshakable. When urged by Umar and others to show leniency, he declared, "By Allah, if they refuse to pay even a rope they used to give at the time of the Messenger of Allah, I will fight them for withholding it." Umar was astonished and said, "How can you fight these people when the Prophet himself said, I have been ordered by Allah to fight the people until they say, 'None has the right to be worshipped but Allah,' and whoever says it will save his life and property from me, except if he trespasses the law, and his accounts will be with Allah." Abu Bakr reiterated with unwavering determination, "By Allah, I will fight those who differentiate between the prayer and almsgiving, for almsgiving is a compulsory right to be taken from the property according to Allah's orders." Umar, witnessing this steadfast resolve, realized the truth in his decision and said, "By Allah, it was nothing but Allah who brought relief to Abu Bakr towards this decision, and I came to know that this was the right path." Under Abu Bakr's leadership, a banner of war was raised on every front. The deserts that had known the hardships of battle even during the lifetime of the Prophet now witnessed battles of unimaginable intensity. The men who had been trained by Muhammad to recognize and surrender to the truth fought with unparalleled sincerity to Allah. They dealt such a crushing blow to idolatry that it was left broken and soul-stripped, fading into oblivion. Their strength repelled the Romans from the borders, crushed the apostates, and brought some back into the fold of Islam, while others perished, estranged from the truth. In just a few years, Islam triumphed and its voice echoed far and wide, while other religions neared extinction. Among Abu Bakr's most significant achievements was the compilation of the Holy Quran. Although hundreds of companions had memorized the entire Quran during the Prophet's lifetime, it had never been compiled into a book. As battles claimed the lives of many who had memorized it, Umar feared that relying solely on memory would place the Quran at risk. He urged Abu Bakr to preserve it in written form. Initially hesitant, as this had not been done by the Prophet himself, Abu Bakr ultimately agreed after deep contemplation. Zayd ibn Thabit was entrusted with this monumental task. Though he hesitated, recognizing the enormity of the responsibility, he accepted it, driven by faith and duty. Zayd had served as the Prophet's scribe and had learned the Quran directly from him, making him the most suitable person for the task. He later described the task as one of overwhelming difficulty, saying, "By Allah, if Abu Bakr had ordered me to shift one of the mountains, it would not have been harder for me than what he asked regarding the collection of the Quran." Zayd meticulously gathered the Quranic material from parchments, bones, leaf stalks of date palms, and the memories of men. When the work was completed, he presented the precious compilation to Abu Bakr, who safeguarded it until his passing. Under Umar's Caliphate, it was entrusted to Hafsa, Umar's daughter and one of the Prophet's wives. In Uthman's era, when variations in recitation began to emerge, Uthman ordered copies to be made and distributed throughout the Islamic world. The modern edition of the Quran, known as the Uthmanic Codex, remains the standard against which every copy is compared. Ali bin Abi Talib once remarked, "The one who has the greatest reward amongst the people is Abu Bakr, because he was unique in compiling the Quran." Abu Bakr Siddiq died on Monday, the 22nd of Jumada al-Akhira, 13th AH, August 23rd, 634 AD, after enduring a fever for 15 long days. During these days of illness, he instructed that Umar bin Khattab should lead the prayers. Some stories claim that the Jews poisoned his food, but these allegations lack authenticity. When Abu Bakr passed away, he was 63 years old, and his caliphate had lasted only 2 years and 3 months. Despite his illness, his thoughts never strayed far from the future of Islam and its stability. In his final moments, Abu Bakr consulted with the well-known companions and chose to bestow the caliphate upon Umar. He then called Umar to his side and advised him on how to lead the people, ending with these words, "If you follow my advice, nothing unknown will be more acceptable to you than death. But if you reject it, nothing unknown will be more frightening than death." Before he died, Abu Bakr gave back everything he had taken from the public treasury during his caliphate. He left no wealth, no riches, only a servant, a camel, and a simple garment. His instructions were clear. After his death, the garment should be passed to his successor. Umar wept upon seeing it and said, "Abu Bakr has made the task of his successor very difficult." Abu Bakr recommended to Aisha, his daughter and the wife of the Prophet, that he be buried beside the Prophet. Abu Bakr was laid to rest in Aisha's room, just beside the Prophet's grave, in the Prophet's mosque in Medina, Saudi Arabia. Umar led the funeral prayer, and Abu Bakr's grave was placed adjacent to the Prophet, his head lying parallel to the Prophet's shoulder. When the news of Abu Bakr's death reached Ali bin Abi Talib, he rushed to his house and delivered a long, heartfelt speech in honor of Abu Bakr. Ali's words on that day remain etched in the hearts of those who heard them. O Abu Bakr, you were the closest companion and friend of the Messenger of Allah. You were a comfort to him. You were the one he trusted most. If he had a secret, he shared it with you. And if he needed guidance, he sought your counsel. You were the first of your people to embrace Islam, and you were the sincerest in your faith. Your faith was stronger than anyone else's, and so was your fear of Allah. You were wealthier than anyone, but your wealth was in your devotion to Allah and His message. You cared deeply for both the Messenger and Islam. Of all people, you were the best companion to the Messenger. You possessed the best qualities, you had the most honorable past, you were the highest in rank, and you were the closest to him. Of all people, you resembled the Messenger the most in his guidance and demeanor. Your status was the highest, and the Messenger of Allah held you in the highest esteem. Ali paused as the crowd gathered around him, listening with rapt attention. His words resonated with everyone, and as he finished, tears filled their eyes, and they responded in unison, "Indeed, you have spoken the truth." This was the peaceful death of Abu Bakr Siddiq, a man who had struggled throughout his life for the cause of Islam. From the earliest days of Islam, Abu Bakr was a source of comfort and unwavering support for the Prophet, always willing to sacrifice his wealth, his status, and even his life for the cause of Islam. After the Prophet's death, Abu Bakr continued to uphold and strengthen the foundations of the Muslim nation. He fought the apostates and led the charge in spreading Islam through the great conquests of his Caliphate. May Allah be pleased with Abu Bakr and reward him with the highest of rewards. Ameen.